And she loathed him so completely and so deeply that she said, I'm not going to participate in a sale of this property if it means my deadbeat ex-husband is going to get a single red cent. He did literally everything he could to avoid foreclosure on his own through like the conventional means, working with a realtor and all that sort of stuff. But he hit the same roadblock every which way.
Yeah,
right?
how much? If I remember correctly, and this is how it is for a lot of deals, we said this house is worth somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000. Is that right?
It was something like that. Our buyer, we're under contract to sell it at $215 right now. Oh, you know what? I actually signed the offer on this one on Christmas Eve. I asked the realtor to give everybody a best and final for like the 24th at noon or something like that. And everything had finally shook out by that evening and we signed it up.
Hey guys, it's Clint. Welcome back to the Messy Million podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the Edinburg Deal. Hey, if you're enjoying this series, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you are joining us on. If you are interested in these deals, you're really going to like this one. This is kind of like the perfect deal, like the not a base hit, maybe a double. This is a great deal. It fell squarely in our buy box. We talked about one that was incredible. We talked about one that would not be in our future buy box. This deal today is exactly squarely in the middle of our buy box. So sit back, enjoy, and we'll see you in the episode. All right, I just had to tell Jeremy to stop talking because he was telling the whole story before we jumped on to record the podcast. But man, this is a fun one. This is, I guess in the last two episodes, we've talked about one of the biggest deals, and then we've talked about one of the smallest deals. And we were talking about which one to talk about for this episode. And we thought it would be a good idea to talk about like, hey, let's talk about one that's like bread and butter. Like this is the one we want to do over and over. Obviously, we want to do the $1 million deals over and over, but that's just not a reality. Jeremy, I think this is the kind of deal that should be the buy box.
Yeah, this is square in the middle of the buy box. The right timeline, the right cash on cash return, the right total net proceeds amount. If we could do a couple of these every month for the rest of the year, we would have a killer 2025.
And just to use that as a quick plug, if you want to know our exact buy box, we're going to be giving away our exact buy box step by step, bullet point by bullet point in our webinar on January 23rd. So if you'd like to get registered for that, Jeremy and I are going to spend 2 hours talking about how you find these deals, how you actually do these gosh darn things, and a really important thing is your buy box. We're going to give you that straight up. So you can just go to learn.land. You can sign up, get the emails and such to get on the registration page. And we'll see you on January 23rd for that. But back to this. This one falls right in the middle of the buy box.
Yeah, it was a great deal all around. And before I get into like how we found it and what the problems were and all that good stuff, I want to cut to like a very important aspect of this strategy, which is what the experience is like for our property owners. This guy, so we made a killing on this deal. We did really well. We carried a ton of risk. We earned it. We solved some really difficult to solve problems. But the people we were working with were thrilled with the result. And so kind of like we teased on Langdon in the first episode, or I guess it was the first deal, second episode, this is totally unlike land flipping, right? We got through the process, we took possession of the property, and we're doing our thing. We're actually about to, we have a buyer for the property right now. We're selling it right now. But I had a bunch of conversations with the interest holders after we took possession of the property, and they were great. They were positive, and they were just so happy to have had the opportunity to work with us. I love it. It is so much more, I almost want to say fulfilling, but that sounds a little too grandiose, but it really is more fulfilling work than what I've been doing for a long time.
I was just, right before this, I was actually filming Seth Williams' podcast, our Tipster podcast, and one of Seth's big takeaways from what we were talking about was this sounds a lot more fulfilling than like traditional land investing. And we've talked about it a couple of times on here, but really, I mean, truly is the only time we've ever been thanked so much for buying people's properties.
Yeah, so let's jump in. So this one, our team connected with one of the two interest holders. I want to say like 5 or 6 days before his lender was about to foreclose on the property. Like they had gone through all the legal steps, and they were I think 5 or 6 days from the actual sale on the courthouse steps. And there was like a holiday in there and a weekend in there, so it wasn't even like 5 or 6 business days. It's a very, very tight timeline. And so we had to do 2 things right out of the gate. I reached a deal with him, some basic economic terms. He accepted almost a nominal amount of money because he was resigned to the fact that he was going to be left completely empty-handed. But there were 2 things that needed to happen immediately right out of the gate for us to even have a shot at making some money. One was we needed to stop that sale. I needed to somehow get in touch with the bank. It was Mr. Cooper, and stop them from selling the house on the courthouse steps. And the other thing was we needed to make contact with his co-owner, who is his ex-wife, with whom he hadn't spoken in 3 years. He's like, I don't have her phone number. I don't have her email address. I don't have anything for you. And he also said, she hates me. She completely hates me. So I can't tell you how she's going to react to all this. I said, it's fine. We'll handle it. But right out of the gate, like immediately after reaching an agreement and getting him signed up, we had these 2 really time-sensitive, really important tasks to knock out. And so that's what we did. I don't know how involved you were. I don't think you and I were talking about this, but I think I did handle Mr. Cooper, and then we outsourced the ex-wife.
Yeah. Sorry, my mic was off. Editors, let's splice this up. I'm going to go back a couple seconds and just look for where I started talking. Let's back up a bit, Jeremy. So we have a husband, or we have an ex-husband, we have an ex-wife. We haven't even told you, we have a house. We have a house in South Texas. And we have a situation in which the property is going to be sold within a week of when we talk to this person. It's going to be sold within a week, and 2 people that don't want to talk to each other, right? Let's set the stage. That's where we are, right?
Yeah, and there's a little bit more context. Like, how did they even get into that situation? There were no clouds on title. There were no disputes over who owned what. The issue was that their divorce was really messy, and the ex-wife refused to talk to the ex-husband. And again, the ex-husband was our point of contact. And she loathed him so completely and so deeply that she said, I'm not going to participate in a sale of this property if it means my deadbeat ex-husband is going to get a single red cent. He did literally everything he could to avoid foreclosure on his own through like the conventional means, working with a realtor and all that sort of stuff. But he hit the same roadblock every which way, which was the same thing, what I just said. She wasn't going to participate. She was going to stand in the way, even if it meant she also got nothing from the foreclosure. That's tough. I have no idea what happened in that marriage, but she was pissed. She did not like him.
And so this is a question that we ask a lot on this team. And this is what we've learned is like, whenever somebody has the first conversation with somebody, you need to figure out, like, how can you communicate to Clint? What is the distress, right? How can you communicate what is the distress? And in this situation, distress was mortgage foreclosure, impending, and 2 co-owners who are not going to work together, right?
That's become one of our bigger buckets of distress, co-owner disputes. This is a pretty severe one, but this is pretty common. We also see it fairly frequently when a parent dies and there are kids, there are children who are fighting over the estate. We've seen that several times. And And it really helps for there to be a ticking clock. It's almost a critical element because people can remain in a stalemate for as long as they want. They need some sort of an external factor, bringing the situation to a head and bringing people to the table, which is what we had here.
So this was a little of a new one for us. You were the point man on this. How did you stop the mortgage foreclosure? Because we've mostly been focusing on tax foreclosures, and there was some tax debt with this one, or very little, but there was some unpaid taxes, but the majority of the balance was an unpaid mortgage. So you have like a few days over the holidays. Like, how did you get the mortgage sale stopped?
Yeah. Well, this is the first time I did something like this under such a tight timeline. And here are the exact steps. So first of all, I had to get as much information as I could about the mortgage. So our point of contact, the ex-husband, sent me statements so I could review everything and get up to speed. But then he and I simply got on the phone with customer service. He told the customer service agent to add me as an authorized user so I could call in and talk to them about the account independently without coordinating with anybody. And I told them what I was doing. I'm going to be buying the house. We have a contract for sale. I need to stop the foreclosure sale upcoming in next week. You need to tell me what I need to do. And, this is, if you're talking to somebody in the right department at a lender, it's something that they hear all the time. This is not something that's going to be a curveball for any of those folks. But she said, here's what you got to do. You need to wire a reinstatement fee, which on this deal was like 25 grand or something like that, to bring the loan current and to cover some interest and penalty fees. And you need to get that done like 3 business days prior to the actual sale, right? But in this case, and so that's what we did, and that's all it was, and it worked. We stopped the sale. In this case, it made the deal really tough, right? Because we wanted to. The 2 things we had to do were stop the sale, but I also needed to know. I need to get inside this black box, which is the ex-wife. Like, how was she going to respond when I reach out to her and tell her what we're doing and that I'd like to buy her interest? Would she continue to stonewall? Or knowing that her husband was at that point basically out of the picture already, would she be more reasonable and open to doing business? I didn't know, but I certainly wanted to have some kind of an answer to that question, even if it was partial, before we wrote that $25,000 check. So this woman telling me, I've got 6 days until the foreclosure sale, but I need to pay halfway through, meant I had 3 days to figure out what was going on with the ex-wife. And that's why we outsourced this one step.
Yeah. So this is, I wasn't the point man here, so I was just racking my brain. Remind me, okay, so we're a few days out from the foreclosure. I almost remember you telling me at some point, they said I need to send it 3 days in advance, but it is 3 days. Like, this is the day.
Yeah. So I can't remember the exact. There was a little bit more to my back and forth with Mr. Cooper. Most of it was like administrative nonsense, like getting updated payoff amounts, things of that nature. I remember what it was. This is the other little wrinkle. You're going to, if you get into this line of work, this line of investing, you need to have some level of comfort going into any given situation, knowing just generally what problems you have to solve. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, you're going to be doing something new and for the first time on every single deal, which is kind of what happened here. So she said, listen, great, you know what you need to do. You need to wire the money, but you can't wire it until I get an updated reinstatement amount for you, which means I need to get an updated bill from the lawyers who are working on the foreclosure. I said, okay, great. Give them a call. Ask them how much we owe them. He said, oh, no, it doesn't work like that. I'm going to put in the request and I'm going to get the updated amount in 3 to 5 days.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
So we got that on like a Friday. And then on the next Tuesday was the scheduled sale date. But like that Friday was day 3. I might not have gotten it on that day. timing worked out fine, but that's what you're remembering.
Yeah. And so my question was, how did we, because in order for us to pay, at least I hope, I don't think we just sent 25 or 30 grand to them without having a path in to finish the deal. So were we able to make contact with the ex-wife in that time frame?
Yeah, we did. Well, we did two things. For the ex-husband, we signed a contract and we got a deed from him before. So we had security at least equal to 50% of the property value at that point. Worst case scenario, we advanced the cost to stop the mortgage. We have 50%. We could sell the 50% by bringing like a partition action or something like that. Wouldn't make a lot of money in that scenario, but we wouldn't lose any money. But on that Friday, when we were making the payment, we had made contact with the ex-wife's mother, who was in communication with the ex-wife and had gotten generally some positive feedback. She was open to talking. She understood what was going on. And it was simply a question of reaching some kind of an agreement with her. So we sent the check, in that posture, thinking we had a good shot of getting something locked up with the ex-wife, but not 100% control of the property.
Seems to always be the challenge. What I thought was funny on this one, I'm sure you're going to get to it, but it was like the tipping point with the ex-wife was that, oh, wait, I'm getting all this money and I don't have to split it with my ex-husband.
So much bad blood, dude.
I know.
This lady, and it's funny when you're talking to people who are in these really tough situations, everybody is always the good guy and the other person, their co-owner, is always the devil. And that was the situation. The ex-husband was like, oh, she's terrible. She's crazy. She's so unkind. She's a sociopath. And the ex-wife was saying the same things about him to the person we had outsourced that work to. She said, oh, he's a deadbeat. He's a dreamer. He's not doing anything with his life. We've got kids. And I was like, oh, that sounds terrible. I'm so sorry.
Hey guys, what's up? Clint here. Sorry to interrupt the episode. I just want to let you know you are listening right now to a lot of jargon, a lot of different strategies and things that probably all require their own 30-minute episode. And I wanted to jump in and tell you on January 23rd, we are going to be hosting a webinar where I am going to be going in depth on a lot of these different topics. If you've ever been to one of my webinars, you know that they are not fluff. They're all value. I spend a lot of time doing them, so I only do a couple of them a year. So if you're interested in going a little deeper on a lot of the things we're talking about, check out the description, or you can just go to our website, learn.land, to get registered, and you'll be added to the list. And yeah, on January 23rd, we're going to be going over a lot of the strategies as well as how you can start finding these deals. So I think it's going to be super beneficial. Check out the description or go to our website to get registered. Okay, jumping back into the episode. So there was a reason that this was a great deal. So let's kind of wrap it up. We start talking to these folks. We get a foreclosure lead. And I think we got this because there was some tax distress on it. So it popped up on our side. But really the mortgage foreclosure was the challenge. Two similar things, just one's a mortgage, one's from the taxing authorities. So this one comes in, within a week, we have it all buttoned up?
Yeah, like 7 days, 8 days tops. We had both deeds, 100% control, and we had stopped the foreclosure.
How much did we lay out, not for deeds, but how much did we lay out to get in a position where we could say, okay, let's do this deal? How much would you say we spent?
We paid the ex-wife $13,500.
Oh, hold on. Not even the deeds. How much time and money did we spend to get to a position to where we knew we were going to pay the ex-wife, we were going to pay the husband, we were going to pay the back taxes?
Our team's time to pull the case from the docket.
Yeah, exactly.
Their time to make a couple phone calls.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that because most of the time when you're getting to a point where you're evaluating, is a deal worth doing or not, often you've spent like thousands of dollars in direct mail or voicemail or data, like all this stuff. For us, this was like almost no cost to get to the point. There was some research and there was some time, but to get to a point where we said, okay, do we want to spend money on this deal or not? It didn't really cost us anything. Now, after we said we did want to do it, then how much did it cost us?
Right. Now, that's a really important point. The cash outlay was it was more than the last deal, significantly more than we put out on the Coldell deal. It was, but it was after we had control of the property. So it was $13,500 for the ex-wife, and we paid $5,000 to the ex-husband, and then 25-ish to reinstate the mortgage. And we had some, after we had control of the property, we had some nominal expenses to get the property ready to list, get the lawn mowed and everything. Oh, funny story about that, by the way. This has nothing to do with the economics of the deal, but whenever I think about cleaning the house up, these pictures come back to my mind. This woman, she put contact paper on like 50, 60% of the surfaces inside the house. Like contact paper, not wallpaper, contact paper on the windows, on the walls, on the countertops, on the cabinetry.
Like clear plastic paper?
No, patterned, like, the 12, 18-inch wide rolls of contact paper that people usually put inside drawer in their kitchen.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we have a generational gap in terminology, but now I gotcha.
And it was a weird thing. Our realtor that we hired, who actually I engaged, right around the same time we were solving both these issues, getting the sale stopped and everything. She went into the house shortly after we took possession, and I was on the phone with her, and she's like, this place is so weird, Jeremy. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. There were some other weird things going on in there. But anyhow, yeah, so I don't know, what's that come out to? Like 35, 40.
Yeah, 35, 40 grand. Here's another question I want to ask is, so we got a house, we sent the realtor over, she sent us these pictures and kind of nasty, kind of old and gross. How did we decide that we wanted to spend $40,000? Asking both for my recollection and for everybody else listening, how did we decide we wanted to spend $40,000 at that point to buy that property? What tipped us? What were the values?
Yeah, well, we have, having done this for a while, we have a pretty structured and rigid process. So I worked up some underwriting, and we have a buy box that we agreed to and sort of set in stone months and months ago. So I was just working within those guidelines that we have. I knew that we want to hit on our deals a certain amount of, not volume, but a certain amount of margin. We want to see a particular return on our cash outlay. And I just use those as guidelines. The other variable that's in there is, what's the property going to sell for? And when we did our first house, I don't know about you, but I was like, oh, shoot, I don't know how to underwrite a house. I think you have a little bit more experience than I do there, but not a ton. And so, if for those of you who have been doing land for a while, probably are wondering the same thing. How am I going to, you've got the roofs, we got major appliances, all kinds of stuff to think about. But what we found this year, and jump in if you have a different view, but on these deals where we are creating so much margin, we can afford to be off, by however much.
Yeah, how much? Yeah, if I remember correctly, and this is how it is for a lot of deals, we said this house is worth somewhere between 150 and 250,000. Is that right?
It was something like that. Our buyer, we're under contract to sell it at 215 right now.
And that's what I think, that's how we look at a lot of these deals, is like super bad, right? And there's all sorts of little things like a super major rehab, you can estimate at like 60 or 70 bucks a square foot for the house. So if you want to do some simple math to kind of get there, but we're not even doing a lot of that. We are saying, okay, this house is worth 150 on the low end. Like somebody would buy this thing if it needed to be gutted. They'd probably buy it 130, 150, right? And some of the comps in the area say it could be worth 250. Let's just stay conservative. If it's 150, can we do the deal and make money, right? And we're all in the deal for, 40, 45 grand, whatever it is. Whether it sells for 150 or 250, don't care that much. I just want to get it on the market. I want to get offers. I want to get feedback as soon as possible.
There's another element here that provides us some some protection and not being the best underwriters for single family homes in the world, which is that realtors are much more interested in taking our calls when we're talking to them about a single family home in a major market. Right. So I'm not obviously doing that. We're not doing that right out of the gate on every single deal. But for this one, where we got 50% control right out of the gate, I brought a realtor right in. I said, hey, I think it's probably around 215. Can you look at it? You know this market. Give me an opinion. Send me your market analysis, and then we'll take it to market together. They take my calls and I get responses immediately without having to chase anyone down.
Well, yeah, because a single family house priced below everything else listed is going to sell in, it's going to be under contract in a week and it's going to be closed in a month, and they get their commission. So once we find somebody in a market who will do deals like this with us, generally just stick with them. I could think of 2 or 3 people off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, you could have told me all that. You probably did tell me all that in a similar way you just told the podcast, but I would have just said, okay, great. But as long as it sells for above 150, we're good. And
right.
You would have said, yeah, we'll be good.
Right. Yeah. We are on all of these deals, we are gradually ramping up our exposure. And part of that is about putting off, sort of dripping out the money we spend to research and underwrite, the time we put into a deal at appropriate milestones so that it actually makes sense and it's justified at the point where we're doing it. Anyhow, so this was a great one. And we also did, once we had control, we also did the tiniest little bit of rehab. We're not rehabbers. We're not creating any value when we do that. But for some reason, somebody had ripped the sink and the vanity out of one of the bathrooms. And the realtor, who knows we're investors and knows we don't do rehabs, was like, Jeremy, you guys should really spend $850 on a sink and a vanity. So I said, okay, let's do it. And we did. But we didn't really do much beyond that to get the place ready to list and sell.
It's kind of like the standard land investor, like, hey, go trim the trees up and make sure somebody can walk onto the property. It's like
right.
that level of value add.
Exactly. And that's basically the end of the story. Our buyer, the person we're under contract to sell to, is not another investor, although we've sold several homes to investors who are rehabbers, fix and flippers. This house was in relatively good condition. Our buyer is an end user. It's somebody's going to move in, do a little bit of repair work themselves, bring their family there and live there.
That's a market trend I've seen, that probably about half the houses we've sold, I imagined we'd be selling them to a flipper who wanted margin. But there's a lot of people who are saying, hey, that property's for sale for $215. Everything else in that neighborhood's $300 plus, right? Well, it's livable. I can move in for $215 and I'll slowly fix everything up and save $1 or $2. And I mean, I think where that 150 number came from was we were like, hey, somebody could buy this for $150, do a $50 or $60 a foot rehab, and they could still make 30% on it. That's like the ballpark number that we're looking for. And so that's why I kept saying 150 or 150. And y'all were like, no, 250. I was like, yeah, whatever. As long as it's better than 150. But even at 150, we make $100,000 on that deal, right? And we're paying realtors fees, commissions, but at 215, I think our spreadsheets just over 6 figures of profit.
Yeah, right around there, maybe 90K, something like that.
That's a pretty good deal, right? It's a pretty good deal out the gate for having all the cleanup work done within a week. Messy title cleanup work done within a week. Now we have ownership, we have possession, we have clear title. We're off to the races to get it listed and sold. And I think we had an offer within like a couple hours of listing that one.
Yep. It wasn't the offer we took, but it was within spitting distance of the list price, of the asking price.
Yeah. So
we actually had three very competitive offers And this one got picked after like a 48-hour best and final. Oh, you know what? I actually signed the offer on this one on Christmas Eve. I asked the realtor to give everybody a best and final for like the 24th at noon or something like that. And everything had finally shook out by that evening, and we signed it up.
All right. How you want to close this? Editors, edit out.
Do you want to just do like high-level takeaways at the end?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So, like I said a couple of minutes ago, squarely in the buy box. And we did some more than a couple of things for the first time on this deal. But, what sticks out at you as being like the most memorable or the most important high point on this deal?
One thing that really hits me is kind of the sharpshooter approach, right? Being able to identify, like I can guarantee if I went back and looked at our board, our list of opportunities, probably had 100 other opportunities on there that we were working and doing outreach to. But whenever we were able to identify the distress in this one, see that there was a solid margin, we were able to turn a lot of time and energy to getting that one closed. And a lot's relative, but we were able to really focus on getting that one done. And so I think that really highlights having a balanced lead flow, right? Not just taking every single opportunity. And this is, if you listen to the last episode and you listen to some of the future episodes, we'll tell you about all the deals that we did that, I don't know if I wouldn't do them again, but I probably wouldn't do them again, right? This was a deal where we really had taken some intentionality and said, we're going to not do a couple of these other deals in our pipeline and just keep our bandwidth open for when a good opportunity that meets. And we were working on some subdivide deals and there were some other like contextual things happening, but we said no to a couple of these messy title deals because the margins were just too low. When this deal came in, or the margins were too low relative to the amount of work that needed to be done. When this deal came in, we had bandwidth, we had the ability to do it, had a great margin, and we just explained we were able to stop a mortgage foreclosure, resolve divorce disputes, and get deeds signed and ready to go. Probably 5 of those days was waiting on the bank, right? We were able to get it done in under a week and take possession of an asset where we were gathering $100,000 in equity. So that's pretty solid.
Yeah, that's what sticks out the most to me is the timeline. When you have an opportunity that ticks all the boxes like this one does, the pieces almost just fall into place on their own. So we took possession of the property in a matter of weeks, got it listed, and it's like a 30-day close, and there's a possibility that the buyer falls out. But if they don't, we're going to be in and out in like 45 days, maybe 60.
Crazy. Yeah, that's a great deal. So anyway, anything else you want to talk about on this one?
No, I think we covered it. This was a fantastic deal. Like you said at the outset, bread and butter, baby.
This is the Edinburg Deal, right?
Right.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed the Edinburg Deal, like this podcast and subscribe to it wherever you're listening. If you haven't already, go to our website, learn.land, sign up for our masterclass on January 23rd. We're going to be going over, I can't stress this enough, the important part is finding these deals. We're going to be going over how to find these deals, how to get all the messy data into a way that you can actually decipher it and find opportunities. And then we're going to talk all about different strategies, how we did this deal and how we did every other deal. So sign up on our website, learn.land, for a webinar on January 23rd. If you like this episode, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everybody.